China's rise has taken many Western observers by surprise, as China has long been viewed in the West as a dichotomy of a repressive regime clinging to power and a society full of crises led by pro-democracy dissidents bordering on rebellion. This perception has led many China watchers to predict a pessimistic future for the country. The regime would collapse after Tiananmen in 1989. China would follow in the footsteps of the Soviet Union in its breakup. Chaos would engulf China after Deng Xiaoping's death. The prosperity of Hong Kong would fade with its return to China. The explosion of SARS in the year 2002 would be China's Chernobyl. China would fall apart after its WTO entry, and chaos would ensue following the US financial crisis a decade ago. Even by the year 2017, last year, many in the West still predicted the inevitable hard landing of the Chinese economy, with all possible negative consequences for the world. Yet, all these forecasts turned out to be miserably wrong, China did not collapse, but the arguments about China's collapse have collapsed. China now is the world's largest economy in terms of purchasing power parity. China has produced the world's largest middle class, the middle class by American standards, with decent income and properties. China had the world's largest foreign exchange reserves. Most Chinese have properties. China's home ownership is higher than all Western countries. And China also exports more tourists than any other countries in the world. China is also the world's leader today in the renewable energies in terms of both investment and output. It's also a vigorous champion for multilateralism and globalization. So why so many wrong forecasts about China? To my mind, perhaps there are three reasons. First, entrenched ideological bias, which is simply hopeless. Many in the West can't believe what they call communist country, one-party dictatorship, non-Christian nation could become so successful. But my humble advice to these people with ideological bias is to look at China afresh, objectively, or I quote from Deng Xiaoping, to seek truth from facts, not from your ideological dogmas. Second, the weakness of many social sciences developed in the West, especially mainstream political science and new liberal economics developed in post-war America. They are not only far away from real sciences, but also out of touch with what's going on in China, with the real China, and to a great extent with the real world. No mainstream economists predict the 2008 financial crisis, which is the worst crisis since the Great Depression in the 1920s. No mainstream political scientists predict China's dramatic rise or the Soviet Union's disintegration. Is much of today's economics or political science really scientific? Or simply, if I may say, pseudoscience? This question can be raised today. The assumption of rational human being, the discourse on categories borrowed from real sciences, the abstract mathematical models, which are really exclusive of many variables which are so important, all these are the inherent weaknesses in these so-called sciences. I remember, if my memory serves me right, Professor John Lewis Geddes, a leading scholar on the Cold War history, lamented that none of the international relations experts or political science experts predicted the coming breakup of the Soviet Union. And he joked that even Nancy Reagan's astrologer could have done better in forecasting this kind of prospect. And thirdly, the worst, of course, is the combination of the above two, ideological bias combined with pseudosciences, which is the case with many China watchers or the so-called China experts. Their ideological belief has entrenched their bias, and their pseudosciences and pseudoscience training have made their studies less and less objective, and naturally less and less relevant for China and for the real world. Sometimes I have to wonder why I should care about these problems. Let's leave them in darkness for the coming years and coming decade. So what?